Live on YouTube. I think this is the first time. Whoops. And we're live. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Don't have my typical setup. And I'm going live on YouTube for the first time as well as on Instagram. Throw me some hearts or a thumbs up if you guys can hear me or if you're having trouble. Because I don't have my stand with me, so hopefully the sound isn't muffled, but we're going to be doing our unboxing of box number 92 today, which I am very excited for because unlike when I am in San Diego and in the kitchen, I usually know what's going to be in the box right away and I'll go out and pick it myself. But this got shipped to me, so I am experiencing what you guys experience on the regular when you get your boxes from us. Hi, Joy. I just answered your message. Yes, I am in Fairfax, Virginia, actually. Where is everyone else joining from? Joy is from Leesburg. That's actually right down the street, not too far from us. I'm glad that the sound is working. Beginning says, I'm waiting to receive my first box. I'm so excited. Awesome. I think you were in our live last week when you told me that you were getting ready to place an order with us. So if you guys are new to us, you know that every 4 weeks we make a new combination of treats and chews to help you feed your dog variety. A lot of us get stuck in that same sort of routine when we go to the same restaurant that we love and we order that same thing on the menu because we know that we're going to like it. But when we do that for our dogs, we're actually not doing them any favors because we want to make sure we're offering them some nutritional diversity. Microbiome diversity is something that is a really hot topic in the dog food industry. You've probably heard a lot of companies talking about microbiomes and making sure that you're feeding your gut healthy bacteria to offset some of that bad bacteria. So that's why we recommend that you introduce a lot of different treats and chews and different proteins so that your dogs can get accustomed to that variety and also build a healthy gut and a strong immune system from doing that. Let's see. From Toronto, Canada. Awesome. Looks like Amy from Crinkle Cuts is here. Lauren, Vermont. Lauren's here, excited to see you unbox and pick up some new knowledge. Awesome. So let's hop right in. Can you believe this is our 90-second box? I don't believe it. It doesn't even feel like that many years or boxes have passed. Because we rotate every 4 weeks, there's actually 13 boxes a year and not 12. So sometimes that number seems a little bit off, but it is true. This is our 90-second box. It did come out on Monday, so a lot of you probably haven't even received this yet. So we'll just go through one by one. And if you have any questions, make sure you use that question comment function right on the bottom here. It looks like a few people also sent questions into our story, so hopefully those populate. But if not, then you can comment them and I will get to them as soon as I see them. So we'll start off with, let's do the muscle meat. So muscle meats are always with red cards. This month is turkey gizzard. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but in our sealer, we were able to add our branding right there on top. So it says Real Dog Box, which is really cool. But turkey gizzard, I have no dog to feed this treat, unfortunately. Icon isn't here, but I'll take it out so you can see. Turkey gizzard is our muscle meat. It's a very lean protein. A lot of people confuse gizzards with organs. So technically it's a muscular organ, but because it's not secreting any enzymes or glandular enzymes, it's considered a muscular organ. So you can see just like this, it breaks apart really easily and it's very lean. Typically only birds have gizzards, and what they're used for is to break down any food from the grit that your poultry is typically feeding on, because they'll tend to swallow a lot of rocks along with their food, especially if they're cage free and free range and they're out just sort of eating whatever. But the turkey gizzard is something that we always try to include when November comes around, because we want your dog to be able to share that turkey dinner with you. We do have a sneak peek at something that's going to be coming out for the holidays that I won't ruin the surprise quite yet, but we are working on something that your dog will be able to share with you while you guys are having your turkey dinner. But this is what the gizzard looks like. Small pieces. You do feed it as a muscle meat, so if you want to top your kibble, you can certainly use it for that. You can also use it if you're going to make some cannolis with. I'll hop right into our heavy chew. Beef trachea. These are the heavy chew of the month, meaning they should last your dog at least 10 minutes. You know, it's always really hard to figure out if we're going to label something as light, medium, or heavy, because obviously every dog is different. Dogs are the most diverse species on the planet. And so it's really subjective, because you could have a Chihuahua that just goes to town on some of these chews and can break these down faster than you would even think. And then you might have a big or even older dog who isn't as interested in chewing, but really likes to savor the flavor. And then they end up taking a long, long time, and it becomes more challenging for them. So it really just depends on the dog. But beef trachea is probably, it looks like, my second favorite item in this box. The trachea is the windpipe, so that's what sits right next to the esophagus, where the food goes down and the air goes through the windpipe. The beef trachea that we get are actually maybe about 3 inches longer, so we do often cut these down to size because they always vary, and we can at least give you some sort of uniform cut. But why this is one of my favorite chews is because even though it is already considered a heavy chew, you can stuff this and put it in the freezer and make a little cannoli out of it. So it makes it really versatile. And then you can also make mealtime a little bit more challenging. So the beef trachea comes 3 to a bag. We also have bison trachea in our inventory. It hasn't been on the lineup for a while because we haven't been able to source as much as we would like. But bison trachea is probably 2 times bigger than the actual beef trachea. So we tend to see 2 pieces in those bags as opposed to 3 of them like we do here. All right, so muscle meat is turkey gizzard. Heavy chew is beef trachea. Cecilite. I have 6 recipes. Do you have a recommendation on what to order? Well, each box is really designed for one dog, but I do recommend people who have multi-dog households to start with a treat and chew box so you can see what it is that your dogs are enjoying from them, and then sort of gauge how much you go through in one box and then order from there. You might have rescues that are really enjoying chews, and so you want to double up on those. Or they might be a little bit younger and you're doing a lot of training with them to get them settled into your new home. And then maybe you want to double up on treats. So it really just depends. Like I said, every dog's different. So turkey gizzard, beef trachea, and then we'll jump into our organ meat of the month. Organ meats always have purple labels. So this month's organ meat is going to be pork kidney. So a secreting organ is one that secretes some sort of fluid or enzyme. So the kidneys are considered secreting organs. So are spleen, so are pancreas, and what am I missing? The liver, of course. And then we also consider brain and the reproductive organs as secreting organs, but those are a little bit harder to source. Something that I love about the pork kidney is that it's dual texture. So this is not a great piece for you to see, but this one, slice right down the middle, that right here is a little bit fattier than the rest of this. So it does taste, and the texture is a little different. And by taste, yes, I have eaten kidney meat before, but this is what the pork kidney looks like. Organs are considered really, really high value items. That's why they're highly used when you're doing any sort of training or rescuing animals, because it's a lot easier to get them out of a difficult place and sort of lure them to you, which is why they work so well as training treats, because they're so high value. Something that we talk about all the time is that in the wild, when you have a pack of wolves or a pack of dogs, oftentimes you'll see that only the alpha gets to eat the organ meats because they are so incredibly high value. So that is the organ meat of the month. Those are the next 3. Brooklyn says huge. Yeah, I know. They are. They really are. The difference between beef trachea and bison trachea. I know. Oh, Lauren has a great recommendation if you have a multi-dog household. She says, use the secret shop because you can stock up on whatever you need. Excellent point. All right, let's move on. So we've got our first 3 items. This is actually my favorite product in this month's box. So this month's seafood always has a blue card, is the green lip mussels. You've been following us for a long time. You know that I have on occasion eaten a green lip mussel, and I often do if you're ever in the kitchen with us. They look just like this. The reason they're my favorite is because they smell and taste so good, but also because they are very difficult to source and so nutrient dense. So this is one of the best things that you can add into your dog's meal, whether you're feeding a dry food diet or a raw diet, particularly because a lot of dogs tend to be deficient in omega-3s and vitamin D. And those are 2 things that you can find most in seafoods, things that come from the ocean. Yes, there are sometimes omega-3s in ruminant animals, but because of how our soil has been depleted over years and years of our industrial agricultural use, we tend to see that that soil doesn't have as many rich minerals or the balance of omegas as it used to many years ago. So that's why we find that animals that are grass-fed tend to have a higher omega-3 nutrient profile, meaning those omegas are balanced. If anything that I'm talking about is interesting to you, but also a little bit confusing, we do go over this at length in our dog parent nutrition course, where we talk a lot about how to find and source things that have omegas in them and why they're so important. But this is what the green lip mussel looks like. You may also come across a little pea crab. I shared those in our stories the other day. That's totally natural. They're sometimes just hiding out in the green lip mussel shells. We get these as mussel meats only, which means they're already deshelled, which also means, just to be clear, these are not completely raw when we get them. In order to open up the shell, if you are a seafood eater, you know that you've got to blanch. So either steam or quickly boil the shells to get them to open up. So these have been half cooked, technically speaking, before that they go into our air dryer. But they look like this. Something to really keep in mind, though, is that they have a very distinct smell. They taste delicious, but they have a very distinct smell. So if your dog hasn't had this before, they may be a little hesitant to eat it. But like I always say, tough love goes a long way. You don't want to give up too quickly. And what you can do is either break these up into little tiny pieces and mix it in with their food. Or some of the other things that I always recommend, my go-tos for getting your dog to try a treat that they're not sure about. Put it in some hot water or play fetch with it. Just throw it. They'll go and run and grab it, bite into it and realize, this actually tastes pretty good. What you might also find, and this is really natural behavior, is that your dog ends up sort of rubbing their body and trying to get the scent of this mussel on it. It might seem like and you're like, why don't you want to eat this, but instead you want to rub your body all over it? Because it's a very distinct smell. And this is something that dogs do instinctively when they want to get a new scent onto their skin and show it off. Bring it back to the pack and say, hey, look what I found. It's a lot of times why dogs even roll in mud for that same reason. But green lip mussels is a very highly nutritious treat. It is a little pungent. And if you like seafood, then you'll love it as much as I do. But if you don't, just something to keep in mind. But something that I like to keep in every dry bowl or raw bowl if I can. So this is why it's one of my favorite treats in this particular box. I'm going to set this piece aside so I can eat it later. Before I move on to the next treat, let's see if I missed any questions or comments. Oh, Innovative Pet Labs, is that you, Lacey or Jamie? Nice to see you in here. Whoops, my bad. So I see that you guys have sent in some questions, but I can't review them for some reason. So I apologize for that. Let's see. BK Pets in here. Hey, Nicole. Hey, guys. Thanks for that awesome video you put together. I loved hearing you tell our story. I really appreciate that. If you guys don't know BK Pets, they are always spreading wonderful information that they're picking up. It's really exciting. I'm at a point in my journey where I probably don't talk about things that I know or things that are happening in the industry with as much passion as I used to, because I'm seeing history repeat itself, and I've been doing this and teaching this for so long that I probably don't get as excited as someone like Bryce or Kenzie. And I can't talk about it the way that they do. So they do a really wonderful job of sort of sharing what's going on in the industry and teaching things that they're learning as dog parents, and sharing all of that information with you. So if you guys don't already follow them, make sure you give them a follow. Next up, we have rabbit feet. So this is our light chew of the month. You guys are recognizing our colors already. Light chews are in light gray cards. The medium chews are in a medium gray color, and the heavy chews are in a dark gray. But yes, these are fur on chews. Anybody new here that hasn't had a fur on chew yet? This is what it looks like. For my YouTubers following. It is a light chew because rabbits are relatively small animals. So anything that's small on the smaller side, right? Like chicken, even sometimes duck, but particularly rabbits, because they are smaller. We do consider these as a light chew. And don't be afraid of the fur, because it has a function. It has a purpose. If you are kind of freaked out about it, just keep in mind that our dogs would probably be chewing on a rabbit foot if you left them to their own devices and they didn't have anything else to eat. But if it isn't your first time, I would love to know how much your dogs love these, because Icon didn't even think twice the first time we offered him a piece of rabbit. He just went right in. He loved it so much. It has fur on the outside, a little bit of meat. You know, feet generally are very, very muscular. You know, we use them for everything. So you're not going to find a whole lot of fat on them at all. And it does have a bone inside. We are going to be dropping some front rabbit feet in the secret shop, which are about 1/4 of the size. But the back feet are a good 4.5 inches to 5 inches. I think I just saw a really interesting question come up. Oh, it's Nicole. Can you clear up the misconception that dogs who eat rabbit feet would eat someone's pet rabbit? Yes, absolutely. So a lot of times the fear of feeding animal parts that actually look like animal parts is that it's going to increase your dog's prey drive. That is absolutely false. That could be so. I probably have heard that question. I can't even count. I couldn't even tell you, but Nicole has probably heard it far more times than I have. So it's not going to increase their prey drive, because when you think about it, even if you're feeding, let's say, an extruded kibble, it has oftentimes the same proteins that an actual non-processed food would have. So it doesn't increase your prey drive. It is not going to make your dog go off and chase after your pet rabbit, because they do know the difference when there's an animal that is prey and meant to be eaten and already dead and served to them on a platter, because we're not allowing them to hunt. I mean, it's very rare that we actually have dogs domesticated these days that are following us, that are hunting, going out and hunting their own prey. So that's not something that you have to worry about. But if you've never fed a chew with fur on it before, I do ask you to exercise a little bit of caution and just supervise while you're feeding, because fur is a natural source of insoluble fiber. So this is really good for the gut. This is what we call a prebiotic. The prebiotic is what ferments in the gut and helps to feed natural probiotics. And that's what helps balance out the gut flora. But if your dog has never had fur before, then you want to make sure that you take it slow. What you might find if you don't take it slow, or if it's just too much at once, that they end up regurgitating. And there's a difference between regurgitating and vomiting. So let me just sort of take you on a little tangent. So regurgitating is when you can still recognize the food that was eaten that comes up as a result of your dog not being able to properly digest what they've just eaten. And oftentimes when your dog regurgitates, they also end up going back for the food and trying to eat it again. I know it's kind of gross to us, but it's very natural behavior for them. So that's what regurgitating is. Vomiting, on the other hand, is when the food has already partially been digested and it's starting to be mixed up with all of those juices and enzymes. And when it comes back up, it's not recognizable as the food that it looked like when it was eaten. And so the big difference there is when they're regurgitating, they haven't yet started breaking down the food, and it's quite normal for them to go back and try again. It's kind of like, you know, when you were a kid and you didn't properly chew your food and it feels like you're choking. Probably for us, we wouldn't attempt to swallow that again. But that's what's going on with our dogs, especially dogs who have never had high value chews like this, because they're like, oh my God, what is it? I need to eat it. I need to eat it right now. I need to eat it before, especially when there are other dogs around. You know, we're talking about resource guarding there. That could be a very normal response to having other dogs in the room and wanting to gobble down something faster than the body is able to. So hopefully that clears up two questions. One, your dog is not going to have increased prey drive from eating something like this. It's not going to go after your pet rabbit. Maybe for some people that's a psychological thing, but it certainly is not a physical response to eating real food. And then the second question, which you didn't ask, but hopefully that was helpful, is what's the difference between vomiting and regurgitation? Regurgitation is something that I wouldn't be too worried about because it is normal behavior. And when you have vomiting, on the other hand, that is after some time in the stomach, it hasn't settled, and it could be another reason for an upset stomach. Mine have fur in their poop as well. Yes, that is another thing to be sure of. So you want to take it slow if it's the first time feeding a fur on chew. And you also want to expect that because it's an insoluble fiber, right? It's not breaking down. A lot of this fur is going to pass. And why I love it so much is it's kind of like a pipe cleaner going through your dog's digestive tract and like just picking up anything that's been laying around that doesn't need to be there anymore. One good notification that your dog might have some extra stuff laying around in their gut is if their farts smell really, really bad regularly, not just on occasion, but they've got something going in there. Just, you know, we make that joke, it smells like something crawled up in there and died. It probably did, and you need to get rid of it. And something with fur on it is going to help you do that. For my large dogs, I add rabbit feet to a meal to feed for quick dental cleaning. I love that. Can you give a rabbit feet every day? Rabbit feet. Can you give a rabbit foot every day? I do. I feed fur as part of my meals every day. So you can. Do you have to? I would say it should be part of what you're feeding regularly, and you can balance something over a week. So when we first started, I actually went to Australia with my dad, and he came with me to visit Dr. Tom Lonsdale in Sydney, Australia. If you guys don't know who Tom Lonsdale is, he was actually a colleague of Dr. Ian Billinghurst. And they were both working together. They're the pioneers of the raw feeding movement. And they had a bit of a divergence when it came to whether or not to feed fruits and vegetables. I wasn't there, but I know that there was a disagreement, whereas Billinghurst thought that fruits and vegetables would be a good part of the diet, and Dr. Lonsdale did not believe so. He 100% fully believed in raw meaty bones. And that was the first time I had ever seen an entire chest freezer of animal parts like sheep's heads and, whole chickens with the feathers on, just like that. because what he said to me was that there's no way that you're going to be able to balance every single meal. And his instruction to me was take the amount of food that you should be feeding over 7 days, put it in a container, in a bowl or whatever, mix it all up. And over those 7 days, you should be feeding whatever is included in that, because that is more naturally replicating what they would be doing in the wild. They're not sitting out there with scales and containers and freezers and things like that. In fact, they're often digging or caching their food and setting it aside to save for another time, which is another natural thing that dogs or wolves in the wild would do when they think about saving their food, and why air drying is such a similar way of preservation as dogs would be doing outside of here. Great question. So you can feed a rabbit foot every day. You can feed fur and should feed some sort of fiber every day if you can. I love that. Lucia has a question about, can you tell us how to do the math again if I run out of raw food and need to substitute it for your treats? Like how much dried liver is equivalent to the raw percentage I would be putting? I can, yes. So let's grab this pork kidney right here. So on all of our cards, you will see how much raw product is dried to make what's in this bag. And so it's right over here. Roughly 10 ounces of pork kidney makes a 2-ounce bag of kidney. So that means that it's lost about 80% water weight or moisture weight. So if you're doing 80%, let's say your dog needs 1 ounce of other secreting organ in their meal daily. And in that 1 ounce, you would really be feeding 0.2 ounces of dried organ. Lucia, send me a message and I can help you do the math. Shoot me a DM. I can help you sort of figure that out, because I know it's going to be harder for me to do this without a pen and a pad. But essentially, we're going to be losing around 80% of water weight when we're drying our food. S. Mota says, is fruits and vegetables needed with every meal? Well, you know, the raw feeding community is sort of divided on that. I don't personally believe fruits and veggies are needed with every meal. Do I think they can be beneficial? Absolutely. They do contain some vitamins that are much easier to find in fruits than you would ever find in meat sources, like vitamin E and vitamin C. That said, do I think that you can still meet those requirements using meat sources? Yes. And more importantly, I think that you should be feeding variety, switching up those proteins and amino acids and nutrient profiles. Then I think it is important to add fruits and veggies with every meal. Ew, math. You didn't like that? Yes, you would be needing less dried than the raw amount, 100%. These are very concentrated pieces of meat because we've taken out all the moisture. We've dried it out. Abby says, if you don't have a lot of fur, will veggies cover that? Well, it's a different type of fiber. So fur is an insoluble fiber. It depends on the vegetable that you're feeding. The cellular walls that are on a lot of vegetables will say like cabbage or kale or protein, or not protein, cabbage or kale or broccoli even. So those need to be cooked down because our dogs don't have the enzymes to break those down. The good news is that those dark leafy greens and cruciferous vegetables, they do turn into insoluble fibers. So in that aspect, you can feed certain veggies to cover that. Absolutely. Okay, I think I got all of your questions so far. So we've got 3 more items to go. If you guys missed it so far, turkey gizzard is our muscle meat. Green lip mussels is our seafood. Pork kidney is going to be our organ meat. And rabbit feet is our light chew. And then beef trachea is our heavy chew. So we'll do our medium chew. Next up, we have duck wings. Duck wings are a bone and chew, as you might imagine. Duck is considered a cooling protein, which can be very helpful for dogs that run hot or tend to have a lot of itchy skin or allergies, especially in the summertime. Now that we are nearing the cooler months, we do often, you will hear us talk about warmer proteins. Like the red meats, like some of the poultry. There is a controversy about turkey and whether or not that's considered a cooling or warming protein that we're actually doing some research on right now to clarify for you guys. But this is what the wing looks like. There's a little tiny piece of fat right here and a little on the back. We had someone message in not too long ago that her dog fared much better on a very lean diet and was sensitive to fats. And so if that is the case with your dog, you can certainly pull this extra piece of fat off, but it's not necessarily necessary. I want to remind you guys that dogs don't have a dietary need for carbohydrates. They don't get their energy from those carbs. They get their energy naturally from fat. That is the most bioavailable source of energy. That means that it's easier for the body to use than other things that don't digest well. When you feed carbohydrates or foods that don't digest well, that puts a lot of pressure on the pancreas. And that's why we tend to see acute cases of pancreatitis, because they aren't used to having to digest whatever that food is. That can often be the case when we feed higher fat foods to dogs who aren't accustomed eating them. We tend to see an increased number of acute pancreatitis in vet clinics during the holidays because people will share their trimmings of meat with their dogs. I would say if your dog is raw fed and you're normally sharing table scraps, that's probably not going to be an issue. But when you have company over and you're not really paying attention of what they're getting, or maybe they get into the trash when you're not looking, that's when we tend to see those cases of pancreatitis. And all that means, an acute case is something that isn't regular. It only happened once, or once in a while. And when it's not chronic, which is the opposite of acute, then usually we can remedy very quickly with some slippery elm or marshmallow root just to relieve that digestive upset. But when we see things like that, like they're overfed fat, we tend to sort of freak out because they will potentially have loose stools or diarrhea. But if you know that's because they probably had something that they're not used to eating, then you can fix it really quickly. But this is the duck wing. I personally love it because of the jagged edges. This is something that can be really mentally stimulating because it's an odd shape. It's not something like, a bully stick that's just goes straight down and then you tend to gulp it. This really forces your dog to slow down and chew. There's a West Paw chew holder that I can't remember like the actual name of, but it fits a duck wing really, really well. Like if you have a dog that is a gulper, and you can stick it in there, but you can also go really, really low budget and go to your local home improvement store, Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever, and get a vice grip and literally clamp that bad boy down to this vice grip, which is a very long piece of metal that your dog is not going to try to swallow, and get them to eat all the way around it. There's 3 pieces of wings to a bag, just like 3 rabbit feet and 3 beef trachea. Phoebe loves the duck wing. I think it's her favorite. Icon really likes the duck wing too. He likes the duck wing better than the duck neck. And sometimes these days, I don't even think I've seen him touch a duck foot for a while. I'm not sure what it is. Nicole says, I've never seen it considered cooling, just neutral to warming. You know what? I'm going to send you the article. I was talking to Angie Ardolino from CBD Dog Health about this. She said that, we all have not all of us, but many of us have the 4 Paws, 5 Directions traditional Chinese medicine book. And it has been sort of our Bible for a long time, for a lot of us that we've been formulating meals and figuring out like for example, when we put this box combination together, we're very mindful of what the nutritional benefits of each item is so that we can put a very well-rounded box together. Anyway, I don't know if it was in this book or when it happened, but they said at some point things got lost in translation. And when turkey was, for the longest time, actually considered a cooling protein and not a warming protein. So I have Kay Stewart, who is the registered vet tech who is working on our nutrition course, working on that research. But if you guys are curious, maybe you can find the paper that was incorrectly translated and send that over to us. Oh, the quizzle and the vice grip together. Jolene knows that's the West Paw chew holder that you can use to hold the duck weight. All right, last 2 items. So I'm going to save the best for last, which is a brand new item on our menu. For now, I'm going to go into the Super Chew Lamb 4 Trotter. This is one of our newer Super Chews. This actually came even after the bison scapula. We used to have the lamb femur on the menu. That was a bigger chew and actually one that is a lot denser and stronger than the 4 trotter. So the 4 trotter obviously is the front trotter, and then the femur is the part behind it from the sheep or from the lamb. It's a super chew. It is really quite tough. Unlike the femur, it doesn't have a whole lot of marrow in here. So I kind will just eat this whole thing in one sitting. Whereas with the femur, we used to see him break it in half and try to really get into that bone. But this is a really tough chew. That's why it's considered a super chew, but not quite as tough as the weight-bearing bones that we usually consider recreational chews. Show this to our YouTube audience over here. It really just depends on your dog as well, because, if they're a very strong chewer, they might try to break this down as quickly as Icon does, or they might just want to nibble off the sides. So this is our Super Chew of the month. Like I said, it's one of the newer items. By the way, if you guys are ever curious about any of the nutritional benefits or the guaranteed analysis, there's a QR code on all of our product cards, and it tells you everything you need to know. Where the product was sourced, how long it was dried. We also talk about how many ounces it weighed before it went into dry. So you can click or scan any of those QR codes if you want to learn more information. There's also feeding instructions on the back of all of the cards. If you ever aren't sure, you can use that, or you can shoot us a text. I am always quick to remind y'all that we were the first dog food company to have text messaging customer service. All right, last but not least, brand new item, and only for a limited amount of time are we going to have it. This month's meatballs. So this month's meatballs are made with duck breast. I kind of want to try them myself, to be honest. We got a killer deal from our duck supplier in Northern California on duck breast. We put them into Secret Shop last weekend, and you guys snatched them up really, really fast. But we made duck meatballs using that duck breast, and it also has green tripe, capelin, chicken feet, beef liver, bison spleen, and rabbit ears. Yes, you will be able to see the little pieces of fur from the rabbit ear right on there. Like Nicole said, duck is a cooling protein. I feel like if we could have duck on the menu all the time, that is one of the proteins that I really, really like to use because it is cooling and it's also really quite lean, except for the cap around it. As you know, and it makes sense, right? Ducks also swim and they can be in cold water. So it makes sense that the fat would be around the animal and not really in between the muscles for, not like a big animal like a cow that's out sort of grazing. We plan on only having it in this month's box. The duck meatballs are very difficult otherwise to source duck meat if we didn't get that partnership with our supplier in Northern California for the duck breast. This isn't probably something that we would be able to have on the menu, and that's why it's looking like it's only going to be for a limited amount of time. In fact, I only ordered like 1,000 of these meatball cards because once this box is finished, you will likely see them in the secret shop so that we can just offer these to you, the rest of them. I don't like to hold inventory. I like to keep everything super fresh. So as soon as we run really low on an item, it goes into the secret shop so we can just get it out of here and get it fresh to you. Mia is gonna love the meatballs. Angie says, was anyone selected for the giveaway? Which one? I'm not sure which giveaway you're referring to. We have like 2 or 3 a week. Side question, how much bone broth do you use for your bone broth smelt popsicles? Well, it's a container, the popsicle maker. I think I picked this one up from like Home Goods. It was on clearance. So really, however much goes into those containers, it's a relatively small amount. Even if you run out of bone broth, you could probably cut it with a little bit of water, or even like a plain yogurt or kefir, because those tend to freeze really, really well. I want to make bone broth smelt ice molds for a 45-pound dog. You really don't need that much. Like if you're making your own bone broth at home, which I do every 3 weeks or so, like I'll make a batch for us and I'll also make a batch for Icon. He is a bigger dog. When we go, we go on hikes at least every 10 days or so. So every time we come back, I really like to help him replenish a lot of that energy and protein with the bone broth. And that's something that I have constantly in my house. But if you're not really making your own, you can pick up, I think Primal has a really good bone broth. Solutions Pet Products. So that was founded by Chelsea Kent. And she's a very good friend of the 2 women, Jackie and Roxanne, that left Answers Pet Food. Unfortunately, Jackie passed away, but Roxanne has gone on to help Chelsea formulate some of their products that are fermented. So Solutions Pet Products has been blowing up, and I do believe they have several different broths. One of them is like the Jiggles or something cute like that. And they also have a fermented fish broth if you're into that. So if you're not making it, you can certainly buy like a really small amount and just use whatever fits your popsicle or your popsicle holder. And then obviously, if you have extras, you can feed that as part of your dog's daily meal. Lucia, is it Lucia or Lucia? Bones & Co. has a good bone broth as well. Yeah, I haven't tried that, but I know Rachel Fusaro reps Bones & Co. And so if she says it's good, I believe her. Okay, I think I got all of your questions. Like I said, you are going to see a special treat coming up for the holidays in the secret shop soon. We haven't done a drop yet this week. Should we do one today? I feel like that's a good idea. Love these conversations. I'm at work and wish I brought my headphones to listen to you like a podcast. Oh, thank you. It's pronounced Lucia. Okay, good. Thank you. I won't forget that. I will remember for the next time you ask a question. I'm here and I don't remember. Yeah, so we're going to do that. We're going to have something special. Keep a lookout for that. It's just something that we want to put together for your dogs. We are going to have a few promos this weekend as well for new members. So if you haven't signed up yet and you're looking at some sort of incentive to join us because you want to be part of the Real Dog community, make sure you keep a lookout. Turn on your notifications. We are going to have another giveaway towards the end of this week. You're welcome. Thank you guys so much. I will see you later. Hope you have a good rest of your week. And I will be back in San Diego next Wednesday. All right. Bye.